Welcome to the 3Haunted podcast, where we bring you all things horror, supernatural, folklore, mythology, and all things that go bump in the night.
What's up, everybody? This is your co-host, Ashley Lunar Goddess, Gorilla Girl filmmaker and horror-loving cinephile. I'm just your average podcast-producing badass.
I'm John Thomas. Some would say that I go a little too far with my love of all things horror, paranormal, and meta, but I say, talk nerdy to me, and I'm all yours.
I'm BJ Sewura, an aspiring paranormal musician who plays live for the dead because the living just doesn't want to hear me.
The Dead of Winter Horror Network and It Came from the 508 Productions invite you to endure the most terrifying immersive experience in all of podcasting. Beneath the Red Umbrella, now available wherever you listen to podcasts. Beneath the Red Umbrella, when the snow falls, the killing season begins.
What's up, ghouls, gals, and all of our galactic pals out there? In today's episode, we'll be diving into past lives, starseeds, galactic connection to spirit, and more paranormal stories with special returning guest Erin Stabile of Vintage Moons. So welcome back, Erin.
What is happening?
She looks like she's throwing gang signs.
My arm is numb, my hand, I can't feel it anymore, so like I can't bend my thumb anymore, so I have to go like this. I have pinched a disc in my back.
Oh, she just
Which
signed.
means I can't use my hand, so now when I write, I have to go like this.
She's
she
doing
just
it
signed.
fancy.
Fuck you.
She's like, fuck you,
know,
Ashley.
I got it stuck. I'm building my son a desk. I got it stuck in the Craig jig the other day. Motherfucker, it hurt. I was like, oh, ow. And then I was like, oh, I literally clamped it into the jig. So
I'm just impressed that you're building a fucking desk. Like,
dude, I should show you all the shit around here that I've built.
that's amazing.
Building and fixing is my thing.
That's great because it's not my thing. I'm more of the accidentally putting holes in things kind of person.
Accidentally, in quotes.
It's true. It was an accident 3 times. But
Is it really an accident after like the second time?
well, they were all different causations, okay? The first time I was lifting weights too close to a wall and I didn't realize I was too close until I'm like, okay, overhead tricep extensions. I'm like, phew, weight goes back and it's doing great. And I guess I stepped back a little too much because the next thing I know, wham, right into the wall. So
It's stuck and she couldn't get it back out and she's like, what the hell?
that's what she said. But then the second time, could you believe it? My ass put a hole in the wall.
I believe it.
I was going to say, yeah, I believe it.
BJ, I believe it.
He beat me to it.
You know how many times I've gotten stuck in a chair? Like one time it almost punctured a kidney. My legs were under it, and it was one of those foldable ones, and I was using it as my desk chair. And our back door was locked, and my husband and my son were in the backyard, and I called him. I'm like, the fucking chair collapsed. It's like punching through my kidneys, and my legs are stuck under it. And I have like a really bad leg. And he's like, likes to run around the house, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, I'm stuck in it. I can't get my legs out. And I was like, one of the like things that broke off was like sticking into my like side, and I'm like, this is how I'm gonna die.
This is it, guys. This is how I die.
So I'm like, I'm like, just fucking throw me over. Something. You gotta get it out from. So he's like, just chucks me. That was one of many chair stories.
See, me, holes in the walls, you in chairs. So
yeah.
It would not be an Erin episode if we did not start things off in this way.
And guess what? I'm keeping it all in.
Oh, yeah.
So
the moral of the story is you don't have to be perfect about anything. You can be a fucking hot mess express. Just don't give up.
Yes.
My finger is still there, even though it doesn't work anymore.
But the important thing is the finger's there.
I can't feel them, but they still kind of work.
I mean, you just gave me an I love you sign, so I'd say we're winning.
No. My son's been making us binge watch Supernatural. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't. When you watch that fucking constantly, like, I'm like, how many times have they died and been repossessed and come back? Now they're a devil. Now they're an angel. Now they I'm so over it. I'm just like, he tells me because he watches it without me when he's not supposed to. And I'm like, oh my God.
When he's not
Like,
supposed to.
so is he on his 10th possession? Like, where are we at? You know what I mean? Like, whatever.
At some point, you just have to ask, is when he in his body the possession? Because that's not the norm. That's not the standard. So
Yeah. Yeah. So he kind of freaks himself out. And he's like, I think we need more salt. I'm like, dude, we don't need fucking salt. It's fine. You don't have to burn somebody's bones.
burn somebody's bones.
That's how they do
lot
it.
out
Yeah.
there.
I
how they
know.
get
It's just the conversations we have with our children.
Yeah. I mean, both of my kids are pretty gifted. So they like it, but also they're scared shitless a little bit. So it's like, I hear a lot of like things happening. My daughter kind of moved in with her boyfriend. So it's like, I was like, were you fucking around in there? And it's because he bought himself a 3D printer from the money he's been saving. And he's got it in her room where she was. And a lot of times I just hear shit. And I'm like, she's got really old dolls and shit. And I've cleansed them. But she used to frequent graveyards just for fun. And, not cleanse or tell me that she's been there. So she just brought lots of shit home.
So is that your fault?
Who knows? Well, teenagers are a breed. Not a fan. I'm just going to say.
I remember the last conversation we had, you told us that she was frequenting graveyards. So is this the stage she's past or she's still doing it?
I don't know. She's not staying here anymore. So I would assume she still does it. But, I mean, the one she took me to when we did our senior pictures, it was actually pretty cool. But I'm like, are you clearing before you come home? Because we don't need, a bunch of randoms. And she's like, yeah, but I knew she was lying.
Now, last time we talked to you, you had leveled up in gifts, and that was probably about a year ago. So my question is, where are we now? I know you mentioned you now are actively more connecting through like a galactic connection to spirit. How does that work?
For me, it's just, it doesn't really work. It just is. You know what I mean? How my practice is, and how I grew up with a lot of trauma, survival, like very young age, anxiety, panic, depression. And now I know I have ADHD. I didn't know until about a year or two ago, but you learn at a very young age to like survive and you create practices and methods to keep yourself safe. So for me, it was uber control, and my mom died then when I was 16. So like control and control. So when I started my like true healing and spiritual work at 39, I had to learn to let go of control. And it was hard. It was hard. It was the hardest thing that I had to do. But like how I started my spiritual journey was in Reiki. And it was really about learning to connect to myself because I took Reiki for chronic pain. Like I became attuned for chronic pain. But what really happened was everything with spirit, really, it was just like a megaphone. You're like, what in the fuck is that? Like, you know what I mean? I started to kind of meditate and connect and do those things. And what I learned was the less that I controlled the situation, the more spirit brought me. So, and that's how I mentor people too, because the less mindfuckery and the less control, the more spirit brings you, the easier things are. So, I do not control anyone or anything that comes to me, helps my clients, helps me help my clients, whatever, because it's only for mine or their highest and best good. You know what I mean? So I don't open or invite myself or clients for negative, for demonic, for heavy, for things like that. I don't even fear it because my guides will, like my bouncer guide is a half galactic being, half angel, and he bridges the realms. So there's only a few of him, but he bridges the realms and kind of keeps the peace and the security. So like he's a very strong guide, and he just knows like nothing's allowed in my space, and I just don't have the fear. So it allows me to be more open, So I do like a lot of light language, a lot of clearing, a lot of this life, past life, all, it's very intermixed for me. And as your gifts and abilities grow, a lot of people keep their stuff separate, but the reality is you need to blend your modalities. I was just thinking about this today. I have a lot of experience in marketing and design. I build things. I do a lot of creative things. I'm making some like sun catchers with like, I'm burning light language symbols into them. Like, you know what I mean? You get to use all of your all of your good stuff. And you can use it in your spiritual work, even if you just use it for yourself. But being open and having a little to no mindfuckery and not letting anybody else in your energetic space just allows you this freedom to explore. Like, I didn't start really connecting with galactic beings until I went to Sedona. I really didn't want to have anything to do with galactic beings. I was super afraid I was going to get probed. It's going to be weird. But the reality is, when I went to Sedona, like the Airbnb that my mentor had rented, like it had this big bay window and it faced like some of the red rocks. And as she was like doing stuff, I just saw like lining up. I'm like, no. And she looked at me and I was like, no. And she's like, what? I'm like, no. Like rocks started, she gave us these crystal, like big palm crystals with words etched in them. And they flew off the table and like hit my feet and shit. While she's like, everybody's eyes are closed. And I'm like, I'm not really paying attention to what she's doing because like so much shit was happening and I was hearing so much, and then I just saw the galactic beings line up. And after that, it was like, okay, you know what I mean? There was like no really stopping it. So it just,
You're like, I guess we're doing this.
yeah, and I don't really put a lot of needing to know who they are, what planet they're from. If I need to know that shit, spirit tells me. Like how I used to have to operate was I needed to know every single detail to function because that's how I survived. Like I needed to know every detail, the time, when it's going to happen, who it is, why. But what I had to start learning to do in the spiritual world, and it's a blessing, is just letting shit happen. If it's a blue being, like if they tell me they're an avian or something, okay, but I don't really give a fuck, and a lot of people need to know all of the details. And if they need to know the details, then they tell me. If I need to know their name, they tell me. If they're going to stick around, they tell me. Like, I just say, can I call on you again? Are you going to, I don't really put so much emphasis on needing to know all of the things. It just allows me the freedom to come and go and do what I need to do without needing to know all of the things, like the need to be an encyclopedia for everything in your life is exhausting. Like I got 2 kids, I got a husband, I got a dog, I got, 1 dog left, I guess. But, there's a lot of shit that happens in a day. And like yesterday I had a session. I have a part-time like little job out of the house, came home, had a session, but the fucking car guy calls and he's like, oh, your husband's car's done or not done. It needs all these repairs. Well, my husband needed to be picked up from work in 10 minutes. So I'm like, fuck. So you have to like rearrange, you know what I mean? You got to like, I was like, had to message my client. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I have an emergency. So then I had to move it. And like you have so much happening in your life, like not having to control everything just brings this whole nother level of, connection to yourself and what you're capable of and your abilities. Like it's so much easier to connect to spirit when you just let shit happen than, oh, I need Mother Mary and I need this and I need this. But what if you have 10 other angels or guides or fairies or galactic beings that were ready to help, but you're only asking for those 3? Well, you just fucked yourself. It's just like manifesting. Like you put all these control and restrictions on it, then like everybody else that's waiting in the wings trying to help you just tell them to fuck right off. So, it like, it's a learned practice. Let's say it like that. Cause I still, there's a lot of control freaks in the world, and spirit always tells me control freak, they gotta lessen it up. You know what I mean? Like if I'm working with people, it comes up really fast and easy, but it's just, and there's no magic button. It takes the healing and it takes the processing, and it really takes you digging into why you hold on to the, that security measure. So
Yeah, I think by trying to control things, we're like stopping the energy flow. We're holding our breath. We're clenching. We're so hyper focused that we inadvertently block the energy from flowing. And in order to be able to connect and explore and expand, we kind of need that energy going.
Mm-hmm. We're so focused on trying to control all of the outcomes that we're not open and available. Like you are not guaranteed tomorrow. If you're uber controlling the next month of your life, every activity for your kid, every this or that, like what happens if you die tomorrow and like today was your last day? Would you really have, be excited that you fucking spent every second of it planning for the future? Who gives a fuck? Nobody is fucking guaranteed tomorrow. So you're wasting your time and your energy every day. Like just not allowing life to happen, allowing spirit to do the heavy lifting, allowing the shit to happen. And just because you're allowing shit to happen doesn't mean it's all light and fluffy and beautiful and tons of money. Bad shit happens. He was supposed to change the oil in the car yesterday. He found a whole bunch of fucking problems with a lot of money that I'm trying to figure out how to come up with. I owe a fuck ton of money in taxes that I wasn't planning for. Like, but now that stuff, I'm not going to say it rolls off. Yes, it's a concern, but it's not my hyper focus anymore. Like when I would hear that a huge balance that I owe, I would just go into an automatic panic attack, you know? And now it's kind of like, well, that fucking sucks. But, you know, what can I do about it? You know what I mean? So it's just a whole different energy about the approach and how much you're going to give your energy, how much you're going to allow yourself to freak out. That doesn't mean I don't have bad days or don't freak out, but you know, I use my energy for better things these days instead of, you know, panic attacks and anxiety attacks and all of that shit, where that's where my mind and body it used to be, you know. It was always in flight mode. It was never in like, you know, having free time. Now that my mind has free time, sometimes it's like, fuck, am I supposed to be doing something? Like, because I was never ever used to that before, you know. And now it's kind of like, am I forgetting something? You know what I mean? It's a totally different life. I did it for 39 years, lived that way. And now that I don't have to live that way, it's like, ooh, that's odd, you know?
So would you say that that's a better way to connect with like spirit guides and all of that if you are, you know, because I feel like for me, I'm just getting into it. And I don't necessarily know how to connect with my spirit guides or who they are even, by letting kind of it happen versus like really trying hard and really over focusing and that kind of thing. Cause it seems like that's kind of how what you're talking about, right? Or is that something?
It is. So like I like to say, and how I like to teach people is I want you to get to know your guides so that you know them. You know the energy, you know your body's response, you know the sign. Like if you ask, you feel. I want you to know your guides, but then after that, it's really allowing it to be open. Like when I have sessions, when I, you know, but connecting with your guides can be very easy. And let me know too. I have a meditation where you can meet it and a workbook that goes with it. So it gives you how to practice, like ask your spirit guide to come forward. But what I want you to do is you have to have this practice of asking for one guide to step forward and everybody else needs to step way the fuck back so that you cannot sense their energy. So you don't have the overwhelm, because most of us always have spirit around us. It's like a spirit rave, you know. And when we already have ADHD, when we already have anxiety, when we already have a busy mind, if all of your guides are always in your face trying to get your attention, then how the fuck are you ever going to sort that shit out? So, you know, when you intentionally practice and try to connect to spirit, what I like to have people do is meet your main guide first and your bouncer guide. So you work with your main guide until you know them. Ask them to come forward. Ask them to come nose to nose. Ask them to step back. What did you feel? Do you feel a male energy? Do you feel a female energy? Do you get I just got arm goosebumps? So, you know, for me, I created these signs with my guides where like my main guide always taps me here. My mom, you know, since she passed when I was young, she taps me here. The angels go here. The goddesses go from my back, like grandmas, aunts, females usually. Because I've had so many surgeries on my right and left knee. I don't have any feeling below my knee. So they go diagonally down. So I know that it's a female, you know. So I created all of these signs, but they're very intentional. So after that, you know, I'm like, ooh, who's that? But I've been doing it so long now, like I know if there's a different energy that comes in, I'm like, ooh, what the fuck is that? Because usually I see and hear and feel and know, but you know, as you kind of have that openness about it, and I think too, that's why I get information in so many ways, because I don't control, like, you have to tell me your name. I don't give a fuck what your name is. If your name doesn't mean anything to me, I don't care what your name is. Like, I just really allow, like, even with energy protects, like clearing every day is vital. And then you set your intentions and your boundaries and your protection. I do not say, put a bubble and do all the things. I'm like, protect me and do whatever. Sometimes they fucking slam me. Sometimes it's a bubble. Sometimes I don't care. I just ask them for what I want and let them do it, you know, and it's that less control part, you know? So, you know, when you're working with trying to connect with your guides, like you need to be very intentional, because the reality is they give you 1,000 fucking signs a day. And, but they're so small that we miss them most of the time. We think it's going to be the God voice, the don't do that, don't enter here, don't drive on that road. But reality is it's your voice that you hear. It's because they go through you to your voice. So you need to ask them, I need your voice to be different. I need to hear you differently than how I talk to myself. Like when I automatic write, I made them write differently from my handwriting, which is horrible serial killer handwriting, by the way. But they write in all caps when I automatic write. So, it's really about building that connection and, allowing the openness and the freedom and not putting a lot of pressure, because a lot of people, they just have so much mindfuckery and doubt. Like, well, why would spirit, I got this great, but why would spirit tell me that? Like, your first thought is your intuition, spirit. And that second thought is your ego bitch slapping it right out. Like, no, why would I get that? How could that be good for me? No, no, no. And then you're automatically killing what spirit just gave you. That awesome thought, that holy fuck, that's a mind blowing thing. And you're automatically literally just bitch slapping it right out. You're just saying, yeah, spirit, I got it, but then no. You know what I mean? So they can't give you more until you recognize what they're already giving you. They told me that at one point. I used to write everything down. This is what I recommend to people too. Write down the signs that you get. I used to write the time. Like I used to put a note, Apple Note on my phone that day. And then what did I see? Like my name's Erin. So ERN 730. So I would look up 730 because that's a license plate. My mom's name was Julie. My brother's name is Jeff. Like, how many times did you see 111? Did you think of something at that time? Like what I found was I was getting at least 30 signs a day. And spirit's like, we can't give you any more signs. If you're not catching on, we can't give you any more. So you got to start catching on. And it's the little things. Did something just move on your desk? I have a grandma shelf with figurines from grandmas. And, a lot of times one of them will be turned. It's like, what the fuck? What's going on? Or sometimes they just do it to mess with me. But, it's recognizing those little subtle things. Like, did you just say, gosh, how can I make more money? How can I? And then your friend is just talking about this part-time job that they're doing. Like, that's something that maybe you need to look into. That is a sign. It's that subtle. It's that simple. It's that easy. But our human minds complicate the shit out of everything. And one thing Spirit brought to me yesterday that I kind of told the people in my membership was adding into your daily intentions and boundaries is protect me from my own, from fucking myself. You know what I mean? Like negative thoughts, negative feelings. And I was like, holy fuck, that's totally true. Because we are the ones that fuck ourselves the worst. So
now adding a galactic being to your spirit guide team, what have you found that difference has made? Has it made a difference in like types of messages that you receive or direction?
I don't think it's changed anything, but it gives me more. It just gives me more. Let's just say there's just more available. I have one galactic guide. He's a reptilian, and he used to come in and he always stands in a suit and he kind of puts his hands in front of him. And he always used to come in, and then something dark or really demonic or really heavy would either come around or present itself. I'm like, motherfucker, are you bringing them to me? And he's like, no, I come forward when you need to prepare, when you need to, whether it's somebody I'm working on or, so he wants something from me, which I'm not openly available. I don't know if I want to give it to him. So I'm like, you might stand here my whole human life and I will never maybe do that. And he's like, okay, you know what I mean? But he is always in the right-hand corner of whatever room. But if he kind of really steps forward, that's my sign. Like, ooh, pay attention. Something's up. Either something is coming. Maybe I have a session. Like I was on a podcast once and I'm like, I just saw this black shadow move and fuck, it hit me. I was like, fuck, it got me. It was just like, I like almost threw up on the podcast because like it, and I could kind of see him in the corner and I was like, oh, fuck. And then like this black shadow comes across behind the person. And I was like, oh, shit. And it hit me like, I had to like mute myself because I almost threw up and I was like, damn it hit me hard. But like, that was kind of my sign and my warning. Like he doesn't talk to me, he doesn't do much, but I know when he kind of steps forward, that's just a sign for me. So for me, they just, any galactic beings, I use a lot of light language. It's just a kind of natural, you know what I mean? Like, ooh, there's a weird thing here or a Wookiee thing or they're just, I don't know. I'm just so open that nothing surprises me. So it's kind of like, and I asked once, I'm like, why do some of these fucking things look like Star Wars people? Or they're like, where do you think they got the ideas? I'm like, holy shit, that's genius. Like, you know what I mean? Like, makes sense, you know?
Now, how did you learn the light language?
I have actually channeled light language, so I call them personal power symbols. I've channeled them like almost since the beginning. Graphic design marketing is something else that I do have done for 25 years. And early in my journey, I was like, I want symbols. You know, I just kind of put it out there and they just started coming through. Like all of my notebooks, it's full of light language. I'm creating this kind of chakra crystal hanging thing, and it's got, I think I put 3 in there. Light language pieces of wood that I've burned light language symbols in, and then I burned the meaning on the back of them. And they're very intentional, so it's progressive. So the first one is clearing, and then the second one is something else, and I think the third one is protection. But there's very much a system and structured usually when I do the symbols. But for me, sometimes I'll mumble. It's not a lot. I don't do the singing much. I don't do the but every once in a while it'll kind of come through with that. But I just ask spirit. I just ask spirit for what I want, and I just let that shit play out. And I just have channeled it forever. And then I actually ended up taking a class, and it was light language, and it's like, oh, well, that makes sense. That's what I'm doing. You know what I mean? And then because I had a guide hang around with me for about a year, I'm like, are you gonna say anything? She would not fucking say a word. And then when I actually took a light language class, then she's like, oh, I'm Katya. But she speaks to me in light language. So she just shoots like symbols and stuff at me. Hers are golden. And I understand it like English. So it's a really different, you know, she doesn't sing it. She doesn't do anything. She kind of shoots it out of her hands. But like we talk back and forth. She understands me and I just understand her symbols. But her, Kali, Mama Gray is one of the healer galactic beings, and my bouncer guide Sidon, they're the ones that I use to like really clear and bind in past life and this life, and they're my heavy hitters. They take and remove the people. There's a new galactic guide, Mr. Floppy. He's got like giant mitt hands, and that's like got suction cups on him, and he likes to put them like, he'll do like, you know, when you go to the chiropractor, well, my chiropractor's awesome. She just does it all by hand. So she always does this with my head, and then she's like, whoosh, you know, you get the, oh my God, am I gonna like not be able to move my neck anymore? But like his hands are just giant like baseball mitts, and they're just like floppy suction cups. But he's a big healer, so he's kind of been part of the 4. He's kind of moving in, so it's kind of a 5 now. But he just started showing up one day, and he's just another big healer. So all of my students, I'm like, call in Mr. Floppy, because I call him Floppy McFlopperson because his hands are just so big, and you can kind of hear the suction cuppy noise. So I'm like, Mr. Floppy. And it just, for me, it's just, I don't question it. I don't have to rationalize any of it. I don't have to prove or Google, or I don't give a shit. If they come in, they're there for a reason. What do you want? What are you here? You know, are you going to stick around? Like those are just the questions that I ask. Like, you know, and when you have a session for somebody else and somebody comes in for them, it's like, okay, well, can they use them? Or, you know, it's just all really about, for me, it's just about being open and not controlling it. And you just get so much farther just not having to be a goddamn control freak. It's so exhausting being a control freak. Like, it is mentally and physically and emotionally draining to be a control freak. Like, when you just let it ride, you're just like, okay, whatever, you know, and the cool shit just unfolds. I mean, it's weird, and I'm weird, and I've always been weird. I fully embrace the weirdness, and I don't make any excuses for it. You know, if I have a session with people and I'm like, okay, very rarely will they be like, one lady, she was a little off put. And then all of a sudden she could feel like Jesus was holding her, and she could finally, I had to like blast the energy into her because she would not fucking let go. Like I could feel the resistance. And she's like, oh my God, what was that? I'm like, that is the energy coming into you. That is how we're blasting through. We're blasting through your layers. And she's like, but it was this big golden energy. I'm like, I know. You know, and it was like her eyes were like fucking saucers. She's like, but, and I'm like, I know, like, I know, because I know, I can see it. And I can tell when it breaks through. So she was one of the harder, but she's like, I wasn't believing it. And then I'm like, I know you weren't believing it. I'm fully aware you weren't believing it. But finally, we were able to break through, and sometimes I'll be a little bit more, if people are a little bit more reserved, maybe. If people follow me, they're going to know me enough, but you know what I mean? But sometimes Spirit will be like, don't tell them everything because it might be too much for them in that moment or whatever. But very rarely do people come to me and not, and be scared. I don't know the right word, but be like, oh, sometimes people be like, I don't know about that. I'm like, you don't have to believe it. You just have to allow whatever you need. You know what I mean? So, and it's not about forcing it on them either. Like, I don't need you to believe it or see it, or just allow yourself to receive what you need to receive. And, might not make sense right now either, but coming up, these things, you maybe in dreams, you're going to maybe channel, like you'll start getting some more things and feel connected. And it's really taking that pressure off of people too. Like, you don't need to know right now. Just allow yourself to receive what you need to receive and just be open to what comes, and it, I don't know, it's like a lesson in futility. It's like going from who you were to who you are. And sometimes I go back to old Erin. I'm like, why is old Erin back? She's mean. She's negative. And, but it's an awareness too. It's not about being perfect. It's not about being perfect. Healing is a lifelong journey. So, it's just about not going back to who you were and staying that person,
I wonder, I know you work with past lives, and you just talked about dreams. With the people that you work with, what do you think you've worked with the most? Like, do you think you've worked with people with their dreams, or more like, where do you get more success out of it, or is it just like, just depends on the person?
Well, a lot of people, I don't want to stay stuck in the dream space, but a lot of people who are still having too much mind fuckery, then I ask them to use their dreams because they're not controlling it as much. Let's say you can still control your dreams. But if people are really resistant, I already know if you're really resistant. Like, I can feel it. Spirit tells me, like, you know what I mean? So some people are just, I'm a big dreamer. I've always been a very vivid, big, crazy, weird dreamer. And now I'll say it's toned down a little. It'll get really big and prolific sometimes. But if people are really hesitant or reluctant, then I have them go to their dreams. Set this one intention before you go to bed. Ask for this. Ask for to remember what you need to remember, to witness what you need to witness, to take in what you need to take in. And then we kind of go from there, like, and it's really about the individual person. Most people I work with, can meditate. Like, I have a lot of free clearings that I offer, and it's really kind of a guided meditation shamanic journey, but it's really a lot of crazy shit happens in them. Crazy shit, but it's really, really powerful in the end. So, it's really about where you're at. Like, can you meditate? Can you calm your mind? And I just had a session with somebody 2 days ago, and she's like, I can't feel anything. And I remembered that with her. Like, she says she can't feel anything. So I'm like, let's stop telling yourself you can't feel anything, and let's allow you to start feeling. So, and it's that perspective shift too. Like, I want you to stop telling yourself you can't. So if you're not feeling it right now, then we create, a way for them to start connecting. Like, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's global, but it's kind of individual with where everybody's at in their resistance. In an individual session, it's just about you. In my membership, everybody can message whenever they want in Telegram, but then we have a call every other week. So, they still kind of get some individual, but it's, you have to look at your, like, growth and spiritual and intuitive and growth journey is the same as learning, because you need to connect with spirit how you learn. I am very visual, so spirit always goes to visual first. You can't try to kick the system and try to learn something that doesn't feel good to you or resonate. Some people just cannot meditate. I'm going to say it's really actually a very little number of people that can't meditate. They just say that they can't. They haven't given it the time or the real energy, or they've tried it once and it didn't work. Well, no, like, it took me months to learn to meditate, like, to calm my mind, to kick stuff out. So, it's the same thing when I work with people who are like, I can't meditate. It's like, So I always ask spirits, like, is it that they can or that they won't? You know, so we kind of figure that out too. And so I always stop people. I'm like, okay, so let's stop right there. And let's, you know, why are you telling yourself that you can't do it? Is it because you don't want to? Okay. But is it because you've tried it 1,000 times and it really doesn't work? Okay, then let's figure something else out. But so this lady on Monday that I had a session with, she's like, I can't feel anything. I'm like, I want you to feel it. So I had God like push and push and push on her heart. I'm like, I want you to take a deep breath in, and I want you to say out loud, I allow myself to feel, to receive. I want to allow myself to release and let go. And she's like, oh my God, like, so she could feel it. Like, and I like people to feel it when we're in the session. And that's something that has really shifted in the last year, especially when people can really feel it, see it, like get even a little bit of sense of it, a little tingle, whatever. They feel so much more connected to it. You know what I mean? So, you just got to find what works for you. I can teach you the method, but we got to customize it for you because you learn differently. You feel differently. You connect differently. You know what I mean? And that's what I tell everybody that I work with. This is the baseline. If you need to add words, do something else, you know, then do that. Like, it's not about you following these instructions and this is how it is. Like, no, everybody gets to expand and grow. Like, I'm a Reiki master teacher. I don't use Reiki anymore. You know, I use way more like light language and things. Very rarely ever will I use Reiki, but it's still a modality that I know and understand. And but now my modalities have just blended, you know, and as you expand it and as you continue healing, you have more capacity. Like, the less shit you have weighing you down in your life, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, the more available you are. Like, you have more mental space to connect to spirit, to not doubt yourself, to not constantly self-sabotage and self-persecute yourself. And, you know, when you're not living in the negative, half empty space, like, there's just so much more opportunity for whatever the fuck you want. You know, I mean, it's not just about spiritual. It really changes your life when you have that perspective shift.
Now, does your spirit guide team interact with the individuals that you're working with, whether you're helping them heal or you're helping them expand into their own gifts? Does your spirit guide team interact with their team to kind of come up with here's our comprehensive plan because person's not listening?
Yeah, so I always my team is always with me, I know, but I always call them in intentionally before a session and then call in the other person. Whoever, I always just say their spirit team for sure, and then whoever else wants to, you know, wants to help for their highest and best good. And you know, I still do have a very structured process. So I do not let them just bum rush me. You know what I mean? And I make them line up in a kindergarten line, like in order of importance or whatever is going on. So a lot of times now, I think because I've been doing it for so long, that unless they are really pressing or pushing forward, I just get the information. It's a lot less about who and what, and it's a lot more of just it flows through really quickly, because I don't need that as much anymore that I used to. Before, I'd be like, who is this and why, you know. I just don't need that as much anymore, you know. But when you're first doing it, you need to know who it is and you need to feel confident in that. But as you kind of grow with that, you don't need that proof in the pudding as much. So but, you know, I'm always intentional with asking them to, you know, be present and whatever, you know. If it's one time I had somebody had booked a session for their son I've done quite a few sessions for people in addiction and recovery. And I think she had a session for her son, and his soul was pretty reluctant to the healing and the clearing. But I think it was her father had stepped forward in spirit, and he goes, you can't tell her that I was here. I'm like, okay, I don't like that, but all right. And that happens sometimes. He's like, I wasn't very good to her in life, but because he's in an addiction state, which is what he was in the human state, you know what I mean? He wanted to step forward and offer, you know, help. So, sometimes you have to really sort out spirit. Sometimes they're like, they can't know this, they can't do this, they're not ready for this. And I'm like, fuck. So, but I always take notes when I have sessions. So, I just write everything down. And, usually I kind of figure out how. I'm like, okay, well, how can we talk about this then? How can I talk about it without it, you know what I mean, causing trauma, or, you know, because we all have our stuff. it's interesting as you learn to navigate everything. Like, well, what the fuck? Like sometimes before I even finish reading a sentence or somebody's thing that they submit for a session or a question that they're messaging me or whatever, it's like, ooh, well, I already know. Or I'll even see past life flashes because I've been doing it for so long. So it's like, ooh, that's not just a this life issue. That's a this life and a past life issue. So, it once you kind of learn to like filter and file that stuff quickly, then everything just moves rapidly. I don't have to think about a lot of stuff. Let's say it like that.
So my question, I love that the way you help people, and the past lives thing. That's the question I had. If do the past lives affect us now in a, I guess, a negative way, and is that something that you have to help them get through, like just like they would in this lifetime, or is it just as alive in them as their life now? Like they went through trauma in this life, but they also went trauma in their past life. Is it affecting them equally, or is it something that they can get through?
Yeah, so past lives I love because, and for me, what I tell people is if you're not looking at your past lives or working with somebody like me to help you or whatever, you're missing like half of who you are or what's available to you. Like, your past lives absolutely can hold you back today through patterns, through especially using your intuitive gifts. We used to have to hide ourselves as healers, as intuitives, as whatever we did in the past. So that holds us back a lot of times in religion. It holds us back in money. It holds us back in putting ourselves out there, feeling comfortable, whether it's putting ourselves out there as a healer, at work, speaking up for ourselves, because we used to always have to be hidden. So there are not every single lifetime affects you negatively. There are a lot of lifetimes where you can bring the good stuff forward, gifts, abilities, knowledge, wisdom, even just connecting to, like, let's just say you were a scholar in a lifetime and you just really need to feel that connection. Let's just say you just really want to be a mom and you just want to see a lifetime where you were a good mom. It was just a good life. It was easy. You had good kids. It was like just feeling and connecting to those lifetimes sometimes is just a big soul boost. But there are some that we need to clear. There's some cords. So if you don't clear them, will it fuck your life completely? I'll say no, but you could have so much more if you were kind of clearing those lifetimes, those cords. Like, let's just say, you have this thing with relationships. You're always picking the same person. And this is why I like to say it's a good time to go to a past life to figure out, because you've been working on this situation. Relationships, like getting better, not sticking with the same people, not getting back into the same old patterns. You've done healing, you've done work, you've done so much, but yet you still go out with the same man, woman, same type of person. Maybe they're good at first, and then after 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, they start cheating on you, they take advantage of you, they use your money, whatever. But you don't stop it. And then you just fall back into a negative pattern of self. So I like to say, when you have done a lot of work on an issue in your current life and you cannot shake it, it still feels heavy and yucky, that's when it's a great time to start seeking some past life stuff, because chances are there's some cords in there that are hindering you, holding you back, that are exacerbating, you know what I mean, like your current life. So you can sit and I have a free meditation to access a past life, but you can do it on your own. You can try it. And the only thing I say with it is, if you try to clear things, you got to make sure that you feel solid in clearing, because you don't want to half-ass clearing and then have it be like not fully, cleared and all of the things, because sometimes we curse ourselves. Sometimes others curse us. Sometimes we put vows on ourselves. Sometimes it's a combination. Sometimes it's a whole fucking village, whatever it is. But if you don't feel confident in that clearing and what you're doing, then it can make things more difficult in your current life. Let's say it like that. So, everybody can learn. Like, I teach people in my classes to, in my past life class, to access your past lives. How do you clear in your past life? How do you reactivate, bring forward your gifts and abilities and wisdom and knowledge? Because it's all really, really important. And it does, to me, it's a huge part of who you are and what you're capable of doing. Witnessing yourself being a powerful healer, scholar, teacher, mom, whatever it is, you can just go in and access those lifetimes, just witness them. And it's just really powerful to see what you've accomplished. All the crazy shit that you've done, and you have done shady shit, and you have done good shit all through lifetimes. So if you think that you haven't been a Viking marauder slaughtering people and hurting people, you are sadly mistaken. We've all done horrible things to people, and we've all had horrible things done to us, but we've all done amazing and powerful things as well. So, I don't want people to think that they're doomed from past lives, but if you are hitting these spots in your current life where you're trying to grow and progress and move forward actively, where you're actively putting energy into healing and growth, and you still, money is a big one, connection, intuition, relationships, those are always really big past life things. So because they're big things in our current life. We have a lot of stalls, a lot of blocks, money especially. So, if you have done so many things and you don't feel you've made progress, that's when I like to say it's a great time to start figuring out if we need to clear some stuff in past lives, because you're like, how much more fucking work do I got to do? But a lot of times too, our soul, it isn't always ready to let go of things. So if you're on this progressive healing process forward, movement forward, then, we have to go through things in layers like the onion in healing. So those things will most likely get really hard and pressing, especially on your spiritual awakening journey. Like they get really overwhelming when it's time to do something about it. Like, why does this keep coming up? Why do I keep getting triggered by this thing? And it's because you're ready. Your soul's ready. Your mind, body, and soul is ready to do something about it, to let it go, to process it, to face it. We stuff down our traumas for a reason, because they're fucking hard. We don't know what to do with them. How do we deal with this emotion, this pain, this fear? So we learn to stuff it down. And when we stop stuffing it down and start processing it, it fucking sucks. It's horrible. It is the worst. But learning to let that shit go it's just life-changing. So, when you hit these parts in your journey, when you're ready, you have to be ready to let things go. We can't just go clear everything from your past lives and be like, okay, you're fucking golden, because that's not the case. You still have to do shit in your current life, continue the pattern, continue the growth, continue the all of those things. And like when people work with me in sessions and in private mentoring, whatever, we create that plan for you. It's your job to continue the work, to do what spirit says. If you don't, that's a you problem. That's not a me problem. But we kind of create that for you. Okay, we cleared this and did this. Now you need to watch for this and do this and keep working on this. And, it's all about kind of the process that you do, and allow and receive, and all of that good stuff is mixed in there. It's weird, but it really is kind of a big picture. It's not, it's not just spiritual and body, but if your mind and your body and your soul, if your mind and your body, and then your soul is over here, spirit does your soul and you have to do your mind and body, like they have to work together, and if spirit's over here, that's usually what happens when we're doing a lot of work. Spirit's over here with your soul, you're doing your mind and body. If you're not doing your mind and body work and spirit's progressing you, well, they can't come back together because, you're not ready. Your mind and body isn't ready to process and understand what you're seeing or feeling or experiencing. So it's an all-encompassing process. You can't just do one without the other. You can do one without the other, but you won't make great progress. Let's say it like that. It won't be easy. It won't be fun. It'll be really challenging and be really like mentally the mindfuckery will win.
It seems like a snowball effect. Like we're always trying to clear the lives before, instead of like being able to be present in the life now, because the lives before are fucking with the life now. And it just makes me wonder why our spirit holds on to these past lives and past trauma versus clearing the slate, when it's only, and not only, because I know you said there are some benefits to the soul remembering to some extent, but it seems like it's more of a hindrance than anything else. And so I try to figure out like why our soul holds on to it versus just truly letting it go, because then we spend like our whole present life trying to let something go.
Mm-hmm. And how spirit always kind of presents it to me is, I'm going to say it like this is, I'm never going to have a relationship like that again. And you say that in that lifetime because maybe he was abusive and whatever it was. I never want to have a relationship like that again. And your soul, for some reason, and there is no rhyme or reason to it, there's no pattern, there's nothing that I have found that like stamps and seals it in, and why is that coming up in this lifetime? Like there hasn't been really a pattern or a certain situation where it's sealing it in, but like I know with the past life work that I do, it's like, ooh, you didn't do that to yourself, somebody else did it to you, they kind of like cursed you, vow, whatever. Spirit usually tells me which word it is, and there's usually a little differentiation in there. But unless you take action steps before you die to clear yourself out, your soul holds on to it. Like, I never want to feel that again. So your soul's like, fuck no, I do not want to feel that pain, that hurt, loss of a child, loss of a whatever. Like, I don't want to feel it again. So, I cannot say why or when it picks up, but in your lifetimes, and a lot of it has to do with free will too, the choices that we make and what we allow to continue to happen, and choices in all of those things. So, it can kind of just trigger, your soul just gets a little bit triggered, like, oh, I remember, even though you might not quite remember just yet, you know what I mean? Your soul remembers. So it's kind of like your soul is like your ego trying to prevent you from having that pain, that fear, that worry, whatever it is. But yeah, I haven't really nailed down like why can't we just have a clean slate? We're fucking dead. We're not, but then we also wouldn't get the good stuff, or you know what I mean? Like the remembrance or the history. What the hell? Fucking fly flew right onto my microphone.
I heard that.
Did you hear that?
That was trippy as hell.
Like,
Yeah, it was a weird sound. I was like, oh god.
It almost sounded like a bee. I'm like, what the hell?
I know, shit.
It's the spirits.
That's funny. Little fly is listening.
So what I picked up that you said is that we got to clear the past life shit, but also at the end of this life, we got to square up and say, whatever happened this life, I gotta let go of. Let it go.
Yep. And when I clear stuff like this life, I always say this life, past life, realms, and timelines in between. And then I always clear you, your current lineage, and you and any future lineage. So, we're not gonna, the lifetimes don't go away, but your connection, your energy, your ties, whatever to it if it's a hindrance, we're not letting it go forward. So, I always do that when I clear, or when I teach, when my students, whatever, don't let it continue. Don't let it be in your current children, any future children that you have. And then, anything, I'm vowing not to come back again. I'm done with the human experience. I got to figure it out, because I'm done with the meat suit stuff. But, I always make sure that we put on the soul, like anything you do in the future, any other lineage that you have, or, so that none of you drag this baggage along. So, that is one thing that I make sure that I do, because I'm like, fuck, is this sucked the first time or the 50th time? I don't want it another 51st time or whatever it is. So, for myself, my students, my clients, whatever, I always make sure that we keep this slate for that lifetime at least, and anything that's tied to it that we can get rid of at the same time. So,
Is if you are connecting, we've talked to other guests about like connecting with your higher self, right? That is that because you're going through all these different different lives, and then by letting go of the bad things that have happened to you, is that a way to connect to your higher self? Like when you pass away, and that person or your soul, is that kind of the I guess the you that isn't maybe connected to the pain anymore? Or I'm not really sure if I'm asking this right, but
like when people say, I don't know why, but the higher
does
self
it?
triggers
Okay.
me. I'm not a higher self. To me, it's just your soul. Like it's who you are in this lifetime. It's, you know what I mean? And, so like my grandma she just passed away like I think it's just 2 years ago now, but she had Alzheimer's. So she was not really conscious or cognizant. So, I could not connect with her soul unless her mind was having a moment or two. So my soul stayed with her. 25% of my soul stayed with her all the time. And then if she had a moment of clarity, my intention was she would come to me no matter what I was doing. she would come to me. She would wake me up, whatever it was, because it was very rare she had moments of clarity. But your soul is just very much aware of those things, you know, and it was very weird with her dementia. Like I could tell immediately when she was in or out of it. Like she did not have enough mental clarity for her soul to, you know, so you got to think about your soul in that way of, you know, having some control of it and having your intentions and boundaries with it too. You know, it's, you can just sit with intention. And that for me, that's what Reiki really did for me. Allowed me to connect to myself, to, you know, the other part of me that I never really accessed, emotions, feelings, anything like that. Like when I started to do Reiki and intentionally try to heal, connect to myself, it was a whole new thing because I had shut myself off from emotion or expecting anything from any other person for 39 years because I never ever got it in return. So I always just gave to others, helped others, healed others, whatever. I was always able to read people. I didn't really understand why, but I could get out like serial killers' confessions and I didn't understand why, but I could sit next to somebody and they would fucking spill all the secrets. It didn't matter. But I just always focused on doing that for other people and never expecting anything in return. So when I started Reiki and that started to shift, it was like, well, that's weird. So it was like really connecting with your soul. Like I said, it's like the mind and body and the soul. When they come together, like it's just a whole different feeling, you know, and your soul is just, it's the thing that's been there for eons and eons, you know, it's the one that travels on. It's the one that remembers the shit. It's the one that hides the shit. It's the one that brings the shit forward. But it's up to us to kind of figure out and navigate, like, why the fuck is this coming forward? And Spirit always says, don't fucking stuff it down. You got to process it. Don't stuff it down. So, even in all of the things that I've learned or modalities, like a lot of times it would be like black tar coming up. They're like, okay, we're getting the tar up to the surface. You have to process it. You know what I mean? And it's like, fuck, I don't want to. And they're like, if you don't do it, you're not going to, you know, grow higher. Your gifts won't get better, whatever it is. So, you know, but I learned that letting go and processing and trauma and all of those things and healing, the more that I was able to let go, the freer I felt, the lighter my soul feels, the lighter all of that feels, you know, and that's why I like people to feel, if you can feel that shit coming off of your soul. I have this one method that I love called take and replace. So we ask spirit to take what's bothering you, what's in your gut, what makes you sick, if it's this moment, whatever, I want you to have it taken. And then what we ask spirit to do is replace it with love, connection, sex, prosperity, whatever it is that you need or want. And like, I want people to feel it. I want you to feel the whoosh, like feel them take it away. And I want you to feel as they slam in all of the good, your intentions that you're asking for. That's one of my favorites because I like people to feel. Like when you can feel it in your soul and in your body, it's just a whole different like belief. Maybe that's the right word to say. Like I don't want to say people buy into it more, but it's like, oh, that's what that is. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm supposed to be seeking. That's what I'm supposed to be feeling. That's what that's what I need to be asking for, whatever it is. It's when people can really feel, I like to say, like when you clear, you just feel that weight coming off of your soul. So it's like, ooh, thank God.
Now, having connected to galactic beings and them now being a part of your enhanced spirit team, do you feel that you've learned more about what's out there, like in the celestial, multidimensional realms because of that? Or you just kind of already knew stuff anyways?
I think so. Like when I do a lot of clearings, they're very weird, and whatever is supposed to happen. I usually set an intention. So I usually do a clearing for my students in my membership once a month. And it's just very open. And it just really, and even for myself, I just say, what do I need to understand or process or heal or, and they just take me to the whatever. Like this last time, we were in some galactic place and like it was like fire and water and something else and something else. And like each element came from each direction and it was like slammed in. There was tons of galactic beings and well, I just don't question it. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I'm like, I think I'm supposed to do this for everybody else? And they're like, yeah, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's really by experience almost, it's what am I asking for? What do I need? Do I need the tough love? Do I need whatever? Does the student need that? What is this clearing? What depths do we need to go to for this clearing? How, whatever it is, it's that openness just allows, sometimes it's like whoosh, it feels like, I love Doctor Strange because sometimes a lot of the stuff is like that, like really like weird and loopy and but a lot of times, but I'm very visual too. So spirit always gives me the dog and pony show because I'm very visual. So I don't know. For me, it's just the being open, and it just brings so much more. It's like, oh, well, that's interesting. Is that where we're going today? Sometimes you walk through a weird cave and then you end up on this thing, or you go on a cloud but you end up in a galaxy. It's I don't think much about it. But I think if I had all of these. So one of my students in my membership on Monday night, she's like, I talked her through how to do ancestral clearing. She was adopted. So I'm like, you need to do ancestral for your birth parents, even if you don't know who they are, because it's a lineage thing. So they just line up and it's all chains. And then I said, you need to do your adoptive parents second because they're the ones that raised you. So she's like, I'm writing it out. I'm doing this. I said, you need to allow it to happen. Set your intention and let it be. Don't try to control, especially specifically because spirit was saying she needs to let it be. You know what I mean? So she was trying to control it. I'm like, allow it, set your intention and then allow, and she's like, oh, she's like, I do need to let go, because spirit was telling me like she needs to let it be because it's going to be way more powerful. So it's kind of by the individual, but it's that control. It really, I don't want to say it hurts you, but it really can hinder what can come back to you, what you can receive, what is spirit really trying to bring you, but maybe you're too scared. Maybe you're too, you know what I mean? You're not ready to hear it, whatever it is. But when you kind of start working through some of those intricacies, and it really, it's pretty sweet.
When you're going to these spaces where there's these other galactic beings, I think last time we had talked, it was kind of more in a dream state this was occurring. I could be wrong. It's been a while. Is this the same space, or are you doing this more in like a meditative state, or where is this occurring?
For me, it's usually more conscious. I'm always awake. Sometimes I'll close my eyes, but just so that I can see it better. It's not, I don't know. It's really hard to describe, but sometimes I'll close my eyes. And just so that I don't have any visual interruptions if my dog moves or, things like that. But for me, it's more conscious because a lot of times I have my pendulum, I'll be writing at the same time. Like for me, it's just very conscious. I don't have to meditate. I don't have to, to channel or do anything like that. I do not have to like check out, you know what I mean? Because I don't have any restrictions. So like I said, spirit shows me. A lot of times they show me, but then I kind of see it playing out in real life in front of me as well. Spirit will show me. I kind of see what they look like. I can hear, I can feel, I can sense, I can know. So, I'm not really very restricted. So
do these experiences leave you in any, like, does it have any impact on your energy in any way, or do you just feel kind of neutral as you go through them?
For me, no, because I don't allow it. If you don't, I like to say you need to be an energetic powerhouse of force. Like nobody and nothing is allowed in my energetic space. Nobody is allowed to curse me. Nobody's allowed to hurt me intentionally, unintentionally. Maybe it's just an off comment like this bitch is crazy. Like that could negatively affect my energy. Even if I didn't hear it, like the energy sent to me for that could affect me. So I don't allow anybody, social media, real life, anything like that be in my space or affect me. So if I had 10 sessions a day, would I be tired? I don't think so. But, that's something that I don't allow. You know what I mean? So I do control my calendar because my sessions are 90 minutes to 2 hours, so I don't think it's more than 2 or 3 sessions a day. Because I do a lot of homework after the session. I write out their plan and do this. And but I just don't let those things, like it's really all about what are you going to allow? Are you going to allow people in your energetic space? And somebody I had a session with on Monday, she's like, but what if people don't like me? I said, who gives a fuck if people don't like you? If somebody, after you've had, because she was like a financial planner, and I said, if that person that you're having a call with doesn't call you back after 3 phone calls, who cares? Like, you need to cut them off your list. You need to give them a time restriction. You need to shift how. I said, but if they don't work with you, that's not against you. That's not a you problem. That's a them problem. They're too afraid to invest. They're too scared to say no, whatever it is. But, who gives a fuck what other people think or feel about you? It doesn't matter. Unless they live in your house, pay your bills, do those things. Like, doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about you. So it's really about who and what are you allowing to take your energy? What are you giving your energy to? So I like people to think about it in the reverse of, you need to like put yourself in a box. Like, even if it's a clear box and you're like, you watch people ping off of you energy, I don't give a fuck, do whatever you want, because it is not going to affect me. It doesn't get to affect me. I'm not going to allow it, and it's the same with healing. It's moving forward, taking chances. Like, nobody can do anything for you. And I just told somebody in a session last night, like, I'm here to support you. We can create your plan. But it's been a month and she hadn't done anything. And she's like, I said, there's nothing I can do for you unless you choose to be an active part in your healing and your growth. There's, it's up to you, and she's like, fuck, you know what I mean? So it's kind of that realization. And I'm like that too. I'm very honest, I'm not going to let you fucking sit there and self-sabotage yourself, because what's the point?
Earlier, you mentioned that you help people with cord cuttings and removing, attachments that are no longer serving. And I'm curious, is it possible to go through multiple cord cuttings but not actually sever the cord?
I'm going to say it like this. What I have seen is, when I clear this life, past lives, it is very much cleared. But the aftercare, the homework that you must continue, is where the fault is. Like, it's not that we didn't clear those cords from the past. It's you're not doing the work to continue your healing, because you're just going back to the default of it didn't work. Well, no, what are you doing to make sure? Like, how is your mindset? Are you giving, you know what I mean? Are you saying that it didn't work? You have to have trust and faith. And like, and for me, that's why I give follow-up, because it's not just about clearing and being done. It's like, it's an integrative process. You know what I mean? And if I have a big problem like today with people, let's quantum heal and bust through all the things. It is such fucking bullshit. It is total bullshit. Yeah, we can heal or clear or quantum do things, but you still are going to have to do work. So if somebody says that they can fucking heal you and help you with everything and you be done, they're fucking full of shit. Because in 6 months, 3 months, 2 weeks, you're going to have the same or similar issues. And, I don't like the quantum stuff that people are pushing around, because it's an easy sell. Who doesn't want to be done with a problem and be done with it forever? That's the fucking easy way out. It's like going to McDonald's and getting the Big Mac and only saying it's 20 calories when it's like 2,000. No, like, you have to fucking do the work. You have to process your trauma, understand your emotions. Why am I stuck in this pattern? I keep making the same choices. Some bitch who says she's going to quantum heal you isn't going to fucking get rid of the fact that you have an obsessive shopping issue. Like, I don't give a fuck. They're totally full of shit. And if you go to somebody and, have session and expect that to happen, you're going to be sadly disappointed, because it's not going to work. It's like losing weight without doing something different. You know what I mean? Or it's just not reality. You have to fucking be an active part in your growth, in your healing, and your all of those things. If you're not not even active, but if you're not the fucking driver of the bus, your shit's going to be all over the place, Might have a little progress, a little boost, a little feeling, a little yippee excitement, but your continued growth or acceleration or releasing is not going to be consistent, because,
So what you're saying is, it's going to take work.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck. It sucks. I want to be the perpetuant of, fuck, let's clear the cords and be done with it. But I'd be a lying bitch if I said that, because it's not. you got to hot mess express it. You got to like embrace it and allow it and process it. And like, you have to do the fucking work. You know, we didn't learn to hold on to our trauma for 39 years overnight. You know, we're not going to heal overnight. It's not fucking possible. It took 39 years for me to get so fucked up that I couldn't be any more fucked up. And you know what I mean? Like it's going to take me, well, I'm 45 now. So until I die, I will still be healing, but I'm not stuck where I used to be. And that's where the progress is. You know, it's about not going back to the old version of you that, you know, you wanted to change for a reason because that bitch was miserable. So, you know, it's
embrace the hot mess express and then let that shit go.
Yeah. Because I mean, honestly, who wants to be perfect? If it's not a little hot mess expressy, then what fun is it? I mean, the stories are way better in Hot Mess Expressville. Like, it's way better. The stories are better. I ever tell you the story of the dude with the hook hand? Like, the stories are way better in the Hot Mess zone, you know? Yeah, one time I was following this dude in the car, and he was, like, riding the rails, you know? Like, when it was a curve. So at that time, it was, like, a big metal, like, curve. And dude, it was like a fucking old Cutlass, and he's like riding it, like the fucking sparks. It was like a movie. I was like, holy fuck. And like the cell phone was the old brick one. And I remember calling 911, like, dude, the dude in front of me is like riding the rails. And she's like, okay, where are you at? You know, I'm not good with directions. I couldn't tell you east, west, north, or south if my life depended on it. I'm like, it's right by the Perkins when you got to turn and go into this thing. And she's like, and then he swerves and hits the other rail. And I'm like, holy fuck. Because it was like a curve before the river. And then I'm like, oh my God. So he finally pulls, I'm like honking. He finally pulls over, fucking opens the door, fucking PBR falls out, and then the fucking hook hand. And I'm like, holy fuck, he's got a fucking hook hand. And there's PBRs. And she's like, get in your car, get in your car. And I'm like, holy fuck. He's like, I'm fine. I'm like, dude, I don't think you're fine. And he's like, I'm fine. And I'm like, I don't think you're fine. So I followed him for a little bit, but I'm like, yeah. That's just one of the many, many stories of my life. Reminded me of Adventures in Babysitting.
I mean, a little bit. Now, have you had any increase in paranormal activity since you've been leveling up with the gifts and the spirit guides and being just open to anything in terms of like anything of not controlling?
I don't want to say it's more. I think there's periods. It's hard to gauge too because of the kids. You know what I mean? So it's hard to say, but I think it's just more the fact that I recognize it now. You know what I mean? Like as a kid, I was so paranoid that I know I blocked myself. Like I had a snoring ghost, and I was okay with him because like he didn't fuck with me. Like he just slept in my bed and snored. You know, but otherwise, I was paranoid of the dark and my dreams, and I had premonitions and dreams. And but now that I know and understand it, you know, it's way less daunting. But like I said, like I could hear somebody walking back and forth in my daughter's room because it's like a wood floor. I'm like, well, what the fuck? Why is my son up at 3 a.m? I was like, what the fuck were you doing up at 3? He goes, I wasn't up. I was like, oh, fuck. So then he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, nothing. It's fine. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm definitely more aware because it, you know, I know that it's not nothing. Let's say it like that. So lately there has been a really big uptick. So, you know, I can tell when my stuff is shifting. I've been having kind of a down slump of life, you know, but other things are like shifting and moving up. So it does increase. Like you see more like visual things. I've been seeing a lot more like full body apparitions. More they kind of present as kind of black, but they're like full beings. A lot of times it was just like little peripheral things, but lately it's been more like people peeking around corners and like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you know, so, but it's a lot more too. I'm just way more aware. You know what I mean? Like I don't get caught off guard and I don't get freaked out. So, definitely, but I know that and I understand that, you know, so if you're in your spiritual awakening, you know, if your intuition is kicking up, like a lot of the big signs are, things that you used to tolerate, you no longer can. People, relationships, way people talk to you. Maybe it's your job. Like, it's not just like, fuck, I don't like this person. It's like, I am going to fucking murder this person. You know what I mean? Like your ability to tolerate things and situations that you've always pushed under the rug, you no longer will be able to tolerate. Your hearing might start getting really weird. That was a big one for me. High pitch ringing and vibrations and sound. So like my spirit guides, spirit team is always in my right ear and randos are in my left. So randos, sometimes it'll sound like clicking, but it's only in one ear. Like I had a big problem with my heart rate. I was on a Holter monitor for 30 days for the heart doctor because I thought I was going to blast out my heart. But those were all things that they're like, your heart's fine. I'm like, the fuck it is. Cause it was like constantly, like I was having like 20 Red Bulls. I'm like, what in the fuck is happening? So, it was really get checked out. If you're having medical things, make sure you get checked out. But then what I've started figuring out was that was spirit was, in my space giving me information. So now I don't really have panic or anxiety attacks. Like my lips used to go numb and I'd black out. And like, I don't know how many times a day I would have a hard time breathing, but now I know that it's other people that I'm picking it up from other people, spirit, all of those things. So just really start paying attention when you hit that spiritual awakening space. It's totally different.
And here I thought it was just hormones for me.
Dude.
BJ wants to talk about hormones.
Hormones? No, I get that heartburn. It's not heartburn, right? It's like the heart chakra, I guess, right?
Yeah, they're radiating from the heart chakra.
It's weird. It's weird.
Okay, so what you need to start doing is start paying attention to when you feel it. Did you ask something? Did somebody else just have an emotional response? Did you have, start paying attention? That's a really big thing. Start paying attention when you're getting these things. Like for me, what I really learned was my heart rate was other people's anxiety, spirit. A lot of times military spirits, other people's anxiety. That's why having a daily, like the first thing you should do is clear your energy, clear yourself of other people's energy, clear your own energy. I clear galactically as well. Set your intentions and boundaries for the day, and then you put your protection. And it really starts to help you not allow other people's shit in, because as your gifts and abilities grow, you're just a fucking open vessel. If you're not protecting against it, then you're just taking on everything from everybody. That doorknob that you just touched, how many fucking people touched it that day? That's all energy, money. If you have a job where you're like touching people or in, constant contact with people, like you're taking on, unless you're intentionally not or clearing, you're taking that shit on. So start paying attention when you feel your heart chakra, that if it's anxiety, a little, if it's feel it kicking up, or if it feels like heart murmurs type of thing. That's how mine was. Start paying attention when you feel it. If you can in that moment, be like, okay, what the fuck is this? What is this? Is this mine? And that's what I like to have my students do is you figure it out right in that moment. Is this mine? And if it's not, then I use pendulum and I clear it right away. And then if it is mine, then if I can't address it in that moment, I write it down and I go back to it. Why did I get that all of a sudden? Was it just me? Was it an anxiety? Was I, why did I get that all of a sudden? And I get to the root of it so I can figure it out. But most likely most of the time it's other people's shit. So
I think for me, because I'm definitely more of an empath, I feel a lot of other people's feelings. And then I have a problem with like not blocking it. I don't know how.
Boundaries?
Yeah. So it's just been it wears me out. And so I'm just trying to figure all that out.
Look, Erin, he is the male version of me. So all the shit you've told me in the past, just
what you gotta be a energetic powerhouse. So I always use pendulum because I have ADHD and I get distracted if I don't. So what you can do in that moment, if you feel it kicking up, just say, okay, is this mine? And so for me, like that's my yes. So, okay, that's mine. What do I need to do about it? Can I clear it right now? And usually I hear from spirit, yes or no, whatever. But something that you need and all empaths need to do is not take on shit from other people. You can still be empathetic, helpful, hearing, listening other people without taking their shit on. Their shit is not your shit. It is not your problem. That does not mean that you can't be sympathetic or so what I like to have people do is just ask. I like the angels because they're very, very loving, but just say, you can just ask the angels, can you please go to Mary and comfort her, give her what she needs, not take from me in any way, shape, or form. I want you to go and whatever she needs, do for her. Surround her, protect her, give her hugs, whatever the fuck it is. But you're taking the responsibility off of yourself then to follow through. Is she okay? How does she feel? Taking on, you're trying to, what we do inadvertently is try to take their pain away, their fear away, their doubt away. But then you're the fucking energy dumpster and they get to walk away feeling fucking awesome. So you got to think about it like that. It's a preservation. Your boundaries are important because it's not your job to take other people's problems. Even me, as doing it as a profession, it is not my job to heal you and continue to heal you. It's my job to help you in that moment, to heal, to gain clarity, but it's your job going forward to do the work. You know what I mean? Yeah. So as an empath, it's a very important job, and most likely you've given and overgiven your entire life. You have very little boundaries for yourself. You don't say no. Even if you don't want to do something, you still say yes and you fucking hate it. So you got to stop doing that. Like, you got to start putting boundaries in place, asking spirit to help you with boundaries and your own boundaries. Because if you don't put your boundaries in place and push them through, spirit has a hard time helping you do the same. So, it's all a big game and a big process, but, creating those boundaries in life is a huge game changer just for your life in general. Like, you start really learning how much you're over giving to people, even if it's just like, fuck, you go mow somebody's lawn, I'll just scoop their front walk because I'm already out here. Well, I just fucking scoop their whole walk in their driveway. You know what I mean? It's like, no, it's you got to stop. You got to think about it. What am I getting in return? And it sounds like a dick move, but the reality is, like, if we're constantly depleting and giving, how are we going to get refilled? Who's giving back to us? So it's more about honoring yourself first, and not that you can't give a compliment or do things, but it's really shifting that wheel back to, and it's something that's foreign to us, because most of the time, us as empaths and healers, we've never done that. We've always given. Now when we kind of turn the table and it's like, no more giving unless I receive money, I receive something in return, whatever it is, like, no more, you know what I mean? And it's a hard thing to start putting those rules in place. You feel like a dick. You're like, no, I've had to tell clients, like, no, I don't message between sessions. I'm not going to move your session. One client is always like, books for 2 weeks later, but can we meet today? I'm like, no, from now on, you're going to pay my emergency fee, which is like $600. Like, no, because I'm stopping time with my family, my plans. You know what I mean? Like, you got to start creating some boundaries for yourself and honoring them. And honestly, it sucks at first, but damn, do you feel good? You don't want to go to that fucking party, but you go because you think you should. And you fucking get to sit at home in your underwear and have a fucking buzzball instead. It's fucking awesome. Like, it's awesome, and the guilt that you feel, just fucking clear the guilt. You don't need the guilt, because it means it just fucking takes up space in your energy. So clear the guilt. If you feel that guilt, clear it. Be done with it.
Well, you do have to learn to say no. We are oftentimes like groomed into always saying yes to the point of our self-detriment. And so you have to learn the balance. You have to learn the no.
The first few times it feels like you're literally drinking acid. But after that, you're kind of like, well, fuck, this isn't horrible. Like, it isn't so bad, and my clients are like, oh, okay, I understand. It's like, oh, well, here we go, but they're like, I understand. You know what I mean? And it's like, then you start thinking about it as, well, they're fucking taking advantage of me. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm not saying no, they continue to receive, even if it's not a client, whatever it is. But, you keep lending your tools to so-and-so and so-and-so, and you get them back. Maybe you get them back. Maybe you get them back broken. Maybe but it's your fucking fault because you keep fucking giving it to them, and you're not requesting it back. You know what I mean? It's taking that responsibility too. Like, well, what's my fucking part in this shit show? You know what I mean? And I continue to let Joe take my shit and not give it back and let him break it and whatever. So from now on, if he gives me something back broken, I'm going to give him a bill. Fuck it. Maybe it's the friendship. But if he doesn't honor me or my stuff enough, no, like, that's a dick move.
Well, there is a sense of empowerment when you take personal responsibility for what you bring into your own life. So if it's like, oh, I'm constantly being taken advantage of, I'm constantly being used, I'm constantly being, yes, but that's because the no isn't being utilized. And so
Yeah. So it's because you're constantly allowing
Yeah.
that shit to happen. You know, it's a hard turntable to turn on yourself, but the reality is, you know, very little things that happen are, you know, are really out of our realm and wheelhouse. You know, most of the time it's us that needs to do something to stop the cycle or the situation or whatever it is. And, you know, it's hard and it's scary to say no or to make I don't want to make somebody feel bad, but it's like, why should I continue to feel bad by, you know, doing something I don't want to do? No, fuck that. No, like should be the fucking top of the pyramid at all times. Even if you have kids, husband, family, whatever. Like if you're not number one on the top, the whole fucking system is faulty. So, you know, that starts with saying no to mom groups, saying no to whatever the fuck, driving everybody's fucking kid to school, picking everybody up, whatever the fuck it is. Like, if you don't want to do it, you gotta fucking stop doing it. Like, if it feels like you just would rather put hot pokers in your eyes than to do the thing, then you gotta stop doing it, you know? And it sucks the first couple of times, but gets really easy. It's kind of like, nope, not gonna do it. And it, you know, it becomes second nature. Like, ooh, that doesn't feel very good. You know, I don't feel like doing that right now. Like my friend, she likes to do stuff on Sundays. I'm like, dude, I don't put a bra on Sundays. I'm not fucking leaving my house. I'm sorry. I love you, but no, it's not happening.
It's buzzball
and
time.
It is. Those fucking things pack a wallop. If you haven't had one, you need one.
Well, and I think too, sometimes by having people say no, it also kind of, and this isn't a blanket statement, but just I have noticed, it sometimes also causes people to be a little introspective into the why they're not saying
Yeah.
no. For example, we have the friend that's constantly needing to date the people that they have to fix.
Ugh.
Because they're fixers, and or you have the people that have like the hero complex, so they're constantly like, you know, drawing in and attached to those that are needing and clinging. And so I think by having people pause and say, okay, yes, I hear you. You're in that really awful relationship that you keep getting into the same type of person. Now let's pause and take a moment and see, what is the part you play in that? And I think you kind of hinted at that earlier too. What part are you playing in that? And it's not even a bad thing to say, ooh, you know, we don't want to necessarily admit when we have, you know, kinks in our armor, but it's like, ooh, maybe I do have that in myself, because if we can admit that, then we can let that shit go.
Yeah. And usually that's what spirit brings forward that shit to me really fast, you know, and usually in those situations they want to fix other people because they don't know how to fix themselves. You know what I mean? And that's just, you got to get to your roots. You got to get to the core of your soul and you know, and most of the time we don't, because we don't know how. You know, it's easier to stuff down our pain, because why would I want to deal with that trauma? You got to bring it all back up before you can let it go. Like, I didn't like it the first fucking time. That's why I stuffed that shit down, you know? So a lot of times in those patterns and habits in past lives, in this life, it's easier to help other people than it is to help yourself. I spent 39 years helping other people because it was way easier. Not that it's just easier, but I didn't know how to help myself because I'd done therapy and medication and all the traditional shit, and nothing ever gave me relief. So I was like, fuck it, I'm done. I'm not trying anymore, you know? But once you really figure out what works for you, you know, and you dedicate time and energy and money to that, then it really does change your life. But you got to be ready. You have to do the fucking work every single day during my intense process. Like, I was meditating, I was connecting to myself, I was intentionally, you know, and to this day, I still process things, reprogram those negative thoughts, like address it. What's coming up? Why is this happening? Like, it's, I've learned methods now to deal with it. So I don't stuff shit down and I don't, you know, do those things, but it takes dedication to yourself, you know, like stop hopping from relationship to relationship and fucking fix yourself first so you can have a real relationship, one where they value you as much as you value them. Like, it's not just you giving, it's, you know, and some people just cannot get out of their own way. Like, you know, it's just easier to go back to another shitty relationship and complain and bitch about it and be miserable than it is to, like, I want, but then they don't want to do the work to really get what they deserve.
I don't want to do the goddamn work.
I know. I wish there was a pill for shit, like a red blue pill, like just quantum fucking do it. Let's do it.
Let's
man.
quantum heal it. We're done. We're healed. Woo!
I wish it was like the Matrix. Just like, nope, we're done with that scenario. We're gonna move on to pill 2 and see where that takes us.
Okay, but let's be real. They could quantum heal zap me, and a week later I'd be fucked up again. I'd be like, guys, I need the quantum pill again. Just keep me on a prescription.
Yeah. Like, you just take this every day for the rest of your life.
Every day. We're gonna clear it every day because you're gonna need it.
I mean, I know I've cleared so many people from spiritual mentors where they literally like hold back their students so to prevent them from developing and enhancing so that they continue to pay them. I'm like, I don't know. I've probably cleared 10 people in the last 6 months of that. Like, I'm like, holy fuck. It baffles my mind that, they're like, I don't understand my gifts. I used to be able to do this and this and this. And now, like, I've paid this person thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for a couple years. And, like, I'm way farther below than where I was. I'm like, yeah, because they're fucking doing it on purpose. They're holding you back so that you continue to pay them. It's like, fuck.
That's
God,
bullshit.
why aren't you smiting these motherfuckers? I'm like, you can never ask karma to go after people. But I just ask for that bus to, like, I want to witness when that bus rolls over. Like, I'm not asking for it. I just want the popcorn. I want to be there.
I love that she went old school. Why aren't you smiting them? Smite them all.
Smite them! Take them down!
Smite them.
Pin their hands to the cross, sons of bitches.
It has been smoten.
Purgatory! That's where...
You get purgatory, you get purgatory.
Ooh, you know what'd be way worse? Human experience forever.
Oh, no.
That'd be total purgatory. Fuck this human experience. This meat suit shit, I'm over it.
She's over the meat suit. Oh my gosh. Okay, guys. Do we have any final thoughts before we start to wrap this episode up? This has been awesome. John Thomas, Tom.
Nope, I got nothing.
So me personally, I'm starting to get in touch with my gifts a little more and my intuition. And then the dreams have been ridiculous. And so I need to figure all that out.
They go for your dreams because your mind is too fucked at them. Like, your conscious mind is too fucked. So they like to go for the dreams. And I asked Spirit that myself. I'm like, why were my dreams so fucked up and intense my whole life? They're like, because that's the only way we could get to you. Because I was so afraid. You know what I mean? So if your dreams are kicking up, it's because they're trying to bring you information, insight, whatever it is. So set an intention before you go to sleep. Like, I want, maybe you just ask. I always just say it's one intention. What is one thing you want to know, experience, understand? Just ask for one thing before you meditate, before you go to bed, like, and just set that intention. And then it kind of makes it way less like, what the fuck? There was like 3,000 things that happened in there. But it kind of helps you kind of bring back the focus, especially if you're starting to astral travel or you're being super tired when you wake up, feel really out of body. Astral traveling is awesome, but it can be kind of a mind fuck as well. So, like, a lot of shit can happen out in the astrals. So you can even set that intention, like, if I astral travel, I need it to be safe. It's only for my highest and best good. It's only, of love and light. And when I come back into my body, I need there not to be dissension, exhaustion, like, extreme, like the hangover feeling, whatever. Like, you need to ask Spirit and say, I'm okay to astral travel, but it's only for my highest and best good. It's only for positive experiences. And when I come back into my body, it cannot fuck me up the next day. It cannot make me super tired or, I'm not a morning person anyway. So, setting those intentions, that's where your energy focus, and you're setting your intentions for what you want and what you need and what you're going to allow. I'm not open or available for all kinds of crazy ass experiences that are not for my highest and best good. Like, no, that's a boundary. You know what I mean? So, start using your dreams that are kicking up with, like, more focus and intention.
That's awesome. All right, Erin, where can people find more about you? And are you open to them contacting you?
Yes. So, vintagemoons.com, and I have one session. So it's called a soul alchemy session. So, healing, clearing, clarity, whatever it is, private mentoring. I take a few people a year for private mentoring. And then I have a membership, and then I do have a past life program. So if you're ready to work in past lives intentionally, like connect to your Akashic records, your past lives, clear them, understand them, and then I always teach you for yourself first, and then you can implement it, like do it. We teach it. I teach it to you for your business later. So, those are a few things that I do, but I have a lot of free resources on my website, a lot of free clearings. There's an Akashic records if you want to try and experience a past life. There's a free clearing on my website as well. I'm on most social medias. I've been pulling back from social media, TikTok, Facebook. I post on Instagram, but I don't love it very much. So, but you can always message me on any of the social platforms or through my website or any of those things. So you can book right on my site, or if you have questions. If you're interested in private mentoring, I have a free call that we can do for that. So, however, because you guys will add me as a collaborator on here, so they'll find me.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming on, Erin. And we'll bring you on for another episode this season.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah. All right, John Thomas, do you want to bring us home?
Yes, I do. Thank you again, Erin, for coming on. Always a blast, especially when we bullshit in the beginning, like always, which is great. I love it. Best way to open any episode, I would think. So, yes. And thank you to all of our listeners for listening to this episode of 3Haunted Podcast with your host. I'm John Thomas.
I am Ashley Lunar Goddess.
And I'm BJ Seura.
If you have any questions, comments, or episode suggestions, please feel free to email us at 300podcast@gmail.com. And if you haven't done so already, please like and follow all of our social media. You don't want to miss crazy, amazing guests like Miss Erin here.
Also, don't forget to check out 300podcast.com, where you'll find all of our past and current season episodes, as well as guest information and all kinds of awesome merch.
Ooh. Until next time.